Let me give you 4 scriptures around principles, and then I'm going to give you a list of limiting beliefs, and then I'm going to hit this practical business stuff real hard, okay? All right, here's four scriptures that are principles that you can take to the bank every time. Be fruitful and multiply, Genesis 1:28. Seed time and harvest, Genesis 8:22. This is when Noah gets off the ark, and God says, from now there'll be seed time and harvest, Genesis 8:22. Here's the beauty about that. The next scripture I'm going to give you, 2 Corinthians 9:10. He supplies seed to the sower and bread to the eater, which next week we're going to talk about the difference between seed and bread. It's going to be fun. Here's another one I bet you never equated to money. Ephesians 5:16. Redeeming the time, for the days are evil. That word redeeming is a financial term. Buy back my time. Just a little bit deeper on that right there. Redeeming the time because the days are evil, or buying up for yourselves the opportunity. And it's this idea that of a merchant who, knowing the value of an article and a good use to which he can put it to, actually buys it up. A good merchant who knows I can take this article and put it to good use. That's what redeeming the time actually means. I can take this back. Here's why this is so important. One of the biggest limiting beliefs that we have is this idea that time is money. Time is money. And I could spend so much time, and I could break it down for you, and I can show you that when you talk to people and you say, okay, what's it going to pay you? Most of the time you break it down into, okay, so what's your hourly wage? Why? Because the cultural hypnotic societal mechanism has taught us to tie a small amount of value to a large amount of time. And here's what I want to tell you. Time is infinitely more valuable than money. Time is infinitely more valuable than money. It is a limiting belief to believe that time is money. Here's another limiting belief. Wealth is wickedness and poverty is piety. I happen to believe that if that were the case, God would not have said in Genesis chapter 2, we're still in the first book of the Bible, we haven't even moved past the second chapter, that gold is good. He says it. Gold is good. If wealth was bad and poverty was piety, and that made me closer to him, he would not be calling one of the primary elements of prosperity of that time good. And he does in Genesis chapter 2. Here's another limiting belief. If you don't break this, you're never going to win in business, that you're not good enough. It's a lie. You have the creativity of the Father on the inside of you. You absolutely are good enough. Another limiting belief is focusing on lack over abundance. Stop focusing on what you don't have and focus on what you do have, and make that thing work for you over and over and over again. Here's another limiting belief: imposter syndrome. Other people are going to think that I'm not enough. Other people are going to not believe that I have what it takes to make it happen and to get it done. It's a big deal. It's a limiting belief. It's a lie. It is a lie. You have the ability. Here's why it's a lie. You have the ability to learn something new every day. And here's the deal. That is your choice. I hear people say all the time, I just don't like to read. Learn to. Learn to. Learn to like to read, because you're going to gain so much wisdom from that. If you can't make yourself sit down and put a book in front of you, then get Audible and listen to that thing over and over and over again. Guys, you understand that? Like you understand that if you attempt to use the excuse that I can't do something at this point in our lives, with the technology that's available. You know, I talk to people all the time. One of the things that I'm into big right now is AI. And why am I into AI? Number one, because time is infinitely more valuable than money. And so I'm trying to figure out how AI can save me time and actually work for me and do things instead of me repeating tasks over and over again. But people say, oh, I just can't learn. That's on you. That's a choice you're making. It's not true. It's not true. I can't learn computers. It's not true. You're choosing to not do that. And that's the difference. Listen, I, my pastoral hat is not on in this room. Okay, I'm not trying to just gather everybody in and make sure you get, because you're here because you want to learn. And if you say I can't do something, ultimately what you're telling me is you're not willing to move past your comfort zone, because you can do anything that you want to do. You can produce anything that you need to produce. I proved it to you a while ago, right? When I said if you needed to find a cure for your loved one and you need to come up with $10,000 in the next 30 days, what would you do? You would come up with $10,000. You would figure out how to do it, whether that meant selling everything you had or leveraging part, whatever. So the I can't stuff doesn't work if you're actually going to win at a high level. If you're actually going to win at a high level, the I can't sell. Well, learn how to. I can't speak in front of people. Learn how to. I can't read. Learn how to. I can't. I just can't sit down and read books. I can't focus. Learn how to. You know how to learn how to focus. One of the best things you can do to learn how to focus is don't ever scroll on your phone again on a social media app. That eats up your focus all the time. These are just little practical things, right? And so what happens though is we take those on, and then we feel like an imposter. We feel like, oh, I can't do this because I don't know this right now. And listen, do you understand what making money in business actually is? It doesn't mean that you have to be an expert. It means that you have to be a little further ahead than the person who needs the knowledge that you have in the moment. That's really all making tremendous amounts of money is about. You got to know a little bit more than the person who needs what you have. Does that make sense? So imposter syndrome, it's a limiting belief. The inability to produce results. It's a limiting belief. Well, most of the time, what we mean is I want to give my time to something else. I want to give my time to something else, and that's on you. You can't get mad at people who are doing things at a high level because you decide that you want to produce results in another area, whether that's knowing what every you know sitcom is, or however much TV you watch or whatever. Don't get me wrong, I get it. I enjoy that. I enjoy doing it, but I'm not going to do that if I'm trying to win at a high level on a consistent basis. Now I may have downtime that I spend with my family or my wife when I do that, but if I'm going to win at a high level, I'm going to be going a lot trying to figure it out and trying to make it happen, whatever I have to do to produce the results. Does that make sense? Listen, if you want to win in business, you need to learn this right now. If you want to win in business, this word right here, that does not exist. That does not exist. If you want to win at a high level, this right here, that word is erased from your vocabulary. I was telling somebody the other day is another big contract that I signed uh, to build something for somebody separate from the one I was telling you about a while ago. And they said, well, we're going to have to get this, that, and the other, and with the city and all of that, and we're in a fight with the. I don't want to say fight. That's not true, but I'm having to work through the perils of our city and our county and all of that stuff. But this is what I told him, because it's true. Listen, he was like, do you really think we can make this happen? Absolutely, we can make this happen. Well, how do you know? Because I don't take that for an answer. When someone tells me that, then all that means is we're going to find another solution to get where I need to get to make happen what I need to happen. That's a mindset shift that has to change. So if this shuts you down when it comes to business or making money or anything like that, you got to erase that, because you're not going to produce results if this gets to dominate or this gets to lead the way. Does that make sense? Okay. We've already talked about it. A limiting belief: business is evil. Uh, one of the things I wanted to talk about a little bit uh, is income inequality, and I'm not going to stay there long. People talk all the time about, do we need income equality and all of this stuff, and the answer is absolutely no. The answer is absolutely no, because there are people who are going to accept that, and if they're going to accept that, then I'm going to let them, and I'm going to go make the money that they left on the table. Do you understand what I'm saying? Here's the next thing. I think everybody should get a piece of the pie. That's not the economic system that God set up. There's nowhere in Genesis that I find pie, but I find a garden. The economic system that God set up is a garden. And if you sow, you are going to reap over and over and over and over again. So it's not a financial pie. So I don't buy into that, okay? Lack of ability, that's another limiting belief. Lack of ability. Guys, I mean, I taught myself asking questions and wearing people out how to play the keyboard. How do you make this chord? Same thing with the guitar, the little bit of guitar picking that I do. I would wear people out, and I would ask questions, and then I would spend hours going back and forth between 3 and 4 chords, literally hours. When I say that, guys, like I'm not exaggerating or making you think, oh, he spent. No. I'm talking about every day. I would come home from work, and I would play a guitar for hours, 3 chords. That's all I would do. I would wear everybody in the house out. I wear myself out because that's all I could do was 3 chords. Playing the keyboard, I had a little plastic keyboard that I would turn a garbage can upside down anywhere I was in the house, and I would sit there and I would play for hours upon hours upon hours. It doesn't matter what it is. My golf swing, I want my golf swing to be the best that it can absolutely be. So I'm going to work at it to make it happen. Sales, I want to know. I want to know what are the best strategies. How can I communicate to someone better? Whatever it is. All right. So lack of ability goes out the window when you actually decide to do something in business. Make sense? All right. Okay. I've said this before. Let me say it again so you can write it down. Wealth is having what you need when you need it. Wealth is limited when you have a poor money story. Poor money story. Poor money story. What do I mean by that? It's what you believe about money. Do you know what broke people believe about money? Seriously, I'm being serious. I'm not trying to be facetious. Listen, I've been so broke I couldn't pay attention. So when I talk about broke people, I have been them with multiple zeros. And do you know what most poor or broke people believe about money? They believe it's all about consumption. I get money to go out and pay bills. I get money to go out and pay bills. It's all that happens. It is a detrimental cycle that happens over and over and over again. But this is how poor people live their lives over and over again. Why do you say that, right? Because that's what keeps them poor. They have a poor money story. They think about money incorrectly. They think that I have to have money so that I can pay this bill. You know what middle class people believe about money? Middle class people believe that money is paying their bills on time so that their credit stays good, so that they can buy things that they really can't afford, but they can afford a monthly payment. That's what middle class people believe. Let me make this money so that I can pay my bills on time. So I keep that credit score where it needs to be. So if I need to go borrow more money, I can do it. Now listen, I'm not trying to be facetious again. I'm really not, because I'm not going to tell you not to borrow money. I'm going to tell you not to borrow money for depreciating things. But I hope to teach you at some point how to actually leverage good debt to acquire assets. Because do you know what wealthy people think about money? Wealthy people believe that money is for producing assets and making more money. That's what wealthy people believe. They're not working so that they can pay their bills on time. They continue to work, and then their assets actually overtake their income from their job, and that's when they buy stuff. Because listen, I'm not telling you don't buy stuff. Absolutely buy stuff. I love it, but don't go into debt because you have a good credit score to buy stuff, and you don't actually have the money to produce an asset, something that can continually produce money. What is an income producing asset? An income producing asset is something that continues to produce income for you on a continual basis, not just one time. Okay? I know that was a lot that I just gave you right there, but that I don't want you to think like broke people. I don't even want you to think like middle class people. I want you to think like wealthy people. That's what I want you to. I want you to begin to think like wealthy people and have expectations and desires that meet in the middle. Y'all good? Okay, here we go. Practical steps to wealth creation. I'm going to give you 2 practical steps to wealth creation tonight. Wealth is connected to your ability to solve someone else's problem. Wealth is connected to your ability to solve someone else's problem. If you want to build or create wealth, the primary thing you need to do is to obsess over solving somebody else's problem. See, one of the things that happens when we start talking about business, we start talking about finance, we start talking about, the way that poor people think and middle class people think and wealthy people think and all of that stuff, is we get into this thing and we start talking about, I want to do something that is my passion. And we get in the my passion trap. The my passion trap is this: I'm going to build business around something that I'm in love with, that solves my problem and fixes what I need in the moment. The issue is if the market doesn't have the same thought process that you do, the same research size that you do, and the same need that you have, then you may have a tremendous idea that fixes something for you, but it doesn't fix something for someone else. Therefore, it's not going to do anything in the market. Does that make sense? When we start talking about that stuff, because I love it, because I was just talking about creativity, right? And I'm encouraging you to be, and I want you to be creative, and I want you to do things that you like. And I understand you find a job that you like, you'll never work a day in your life, right? That's what we've all been told, and there's some truth to that. But at the end of the day, if I'm not solving a problem for someone else, then they're not going to pay for me to be able to do what I want. And most of the time, what we're talking about with this passion thing is a hobby that we like, which is cool. I love it. Don't get me wrong. I would love to be able to be paid to play golf, right? I would love that, or to hunt. And who knows, that may happen. That may happen the way that content goes right now. Take my phone, set it up. When we play golf, I guarantee you some of the shenanigans that happens on the golf course when I'm playing could make some money. I guarantee it. So there's always ways to do that, but I'm not going to act like that is solving a problem for somebody. It may be a hobby that I really like, right? But what is solving a problem for someone else? And I have to ask these questions when we start talking about that. So whatever your business idea is, like, what does your research look like? How big is your sample size? Where did you get your idea from? Because it may be that you can make some money, but it may not be that this is the primary thing that solves somebody else's problem. And I'm just saying you can't maximize your profitability if this is only what you want. Make sense? Okay. Let me double down on this just a little bit, because this is not just about pursuing just money, because this is another concept that the Jewish people have taught for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. Solving a problem for someone else is serving them according to the command of God. Solving a problem for someone else is serving them according to the command of God. And it's amazing what will open up for us if we just live the life that Jesus illustrated in the Sermon on the Mount, serving others. The key to healthy relationships. These are all God's principles. And what are God's principles? His automations. God's principles are his automations. You cannot build a business or enterprise that scales by creating only what you value or what you're interested in. You must create what the market values. And if what you are offering is not more important to the prospect than their own money, they're not going to buy it. You hear me? If what you're offering is not more important than their money, they're not going to buy it. So number one, if you want to create wealth at a high level, solve a problem. And if you want to make money at a high level really fast, solve a problem that rich people have. Do you know why? Because I just told you how they think about money, and they will pay you to save them time so that they can make more assets with their money that they're already making. Like seriously, if you didn't get anything else out of the next 4 weeks that we talk about, if you learn to do this, you will never, ever, ever need for money. If you learn to solve somebody else's problem. And there are plenty of problems out there to solve. And when I'm talking about like you obsess over it. Like I'm going to find a solution that will solve whatever the problem may be. See, one of the problems that I am intent on solving is having people think clearly through adjustments, like what I was telling you a while ago. Because we get stuck, and sometimes we get in this fight or flight thing, or fight, flight, or freeze. You know what I'm talking about? And so you're getting a situation, and you're getting your brains kicked in, maybe in a business, situation or whatever, and you're not doing anything, and you don't know what to do. You don't want to move. Oh my goodness! You have to have somebody come in and say, "Hey, what if we make an adjustment here? What if we adjust here? What if we do this? What if we do that?" And so it shifts the way that we think. It's solving a problem for someone who doesn't have the ability to maybe see it right in the moment, right? Learning to solve a problem and it doesn't matter what it is. My goodness, do you know that there is a business in this town, multiple businesses actually in this town, and their primary form of business is picking up dog poop. It's called the Poop Squad. You know how I know? Because when I was at my other house, I paid them weekly to come and pick up dog poop. Why? Could I have done that? Yes, I could have. I could have even made a kid do it. Just go clean it up. But here's the thing. They have a business. They do it well. They care about that way more than I did, right? I mean, I cared about my yard looking good. And it saves me time. I don't have to do it. I don't have to do it. I'm at this point right now where, I'm so grateful. It goes into our family text. Such and such is coming tomorrow to clean the house. We've got somebody coming, to clean the house. Does that mean we can't do it or we should? No. But we don't bring them in all the time, but we bring them in at least once a month to do a good deep clean of our house. Why? Because we can. And they're good at it. And I can pay them. They're serving us with what they're really good at. I'm able to pay them. And that's how business works over and over and over again. I'm not sitting here thinking about, man, I get to do all of this stuff around the house all the time and every project. No. Let me pay somebody who can do it way faster than I can, way better than I can. Why? Because they're solving a problem that I have, right? It's the same thing for you. If you learn to solve a problem for someone, you'll never run out of money. If you learn to solve a problem for people who have a lot of money, you become exponentially wealthy really, really quick. Make sense? All right, number 2. So number 1 is obsess over solving a problem. Number 2 is obsess over creating value. I'm going to mess with you a little bit, okay? You're currently being paid at the level of value that you create. Now, I didn't say you're being paid what you're worth or what you think you're worth. I'm saying you're currently being paid at the level of value that you create. That's why I'm willing to walk away from jobs and not lower my price. You understand what I'm saying? Because I'm okay with it. I am okay with them saying, I don't value your work like you do, so I'm going to go with someone else. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with guys who come and they give me a price on stuff around here or whatever, and I tell them, that's just not what I'm willing to pay. Well, I'll drop my price, and I tell them, no, don't drop your price. You keep your price at what it is. I'm just telling you the value that I have in that. It's not what you have, but what you have is good. I'm okay with that. I literally have told guys that before. And you know what that does though? It creates a bond, and they're like, I want to make something happen, and I want to connect with you. And then they'll send me work, or I'll send them work, or we'll find a way to make it happen. You're currently being paid at the level of value you're creating. In business, there has to be a transaction, and that transaction happens based on value. I have an offer that someone wants, and they value it enough to pay their hard-earned money for the value of that offer, right? And if I want continued transactions like that, which I do, I want those, then the value that I create has to be greater in their perspective than the price that they're paying. Does that make sense? The value that you create in their perspective, it has to be greater than the price that they're paying. That's why, seriously, once again, I'm just being frank with you guys. That's why I'm doing this for free, because I want to give you value at a high level. I want to be generous because I know He gives seed to the sower. You understand what I'm saying? Value is perception. I didn't bring them with me, but if I were to hold up a penny and $100 bill, which one is more valuable? Huh? Says who? The material, the copper penny is probably worth more than the paper that the $100 bill is on. But here's why value is important, and here's why creating value is important. You believe, I believe, everybody in here believes that the $100 bill is worth more than that penny. So value has been created based on a belief system that a piece of paper is worth more than the actual product of a copper penny. Do you understand what I'm saying? This is why value is so important. This is why you don't change your prices when people tell you to do that. No, because I'm not going to change my value. When I first got into real estate and I heard people talking like this, I didn't understand what they meant. I 1000% understand it now. Value your time. This is what they said then. Value your time at $1,000 an hour. So what does that mean? That means if I'm in a transaction that takes me longer in hours than the multiple of zeros that I'm going to make on that deal, I've lost money. Ryan, you can't really. Absolutely, I believe that. My time is extremely valuable. My time is extremely valuable. And it continues to go up from $1,000 an hour on the regular. You understand what I'm saying? Why? Because time is infinitely more valuable than money. And what I'm going to learn to do is utilize my time. Yes, I want to make the money, but I want to learn how to make the money when I'm not giving any time to it. The income producing asset, right? So value is perception. There's one professor, I believe he was Ivy League. I can't remember the exact school, so I'm not going to quote that, and I may be wrong. But this is the term that he gave to money: a certificate of performance. A certificate of performance. And when you begin to think like that, it causes you to double down when you say, I just don't have money. I just don't have any money. What are you saying? I didn't do what it took to get what I needed in the moment. You understand what I'm saying? So if you create value, the result of value creation is this. It's a direct result for something that you create for someone else. So who determines the value, right? Who determines the value? The marketplace, yeah. Value has to be created by someone other than you. That's why I didn't ask you to value my time at $1,000 an hour, because most of you wouldn't, and that's okay. You understand what I'm saying? But I know what my time is worth. I know the conversation that I've had to say, or say, don't call me again about this project until we have it under contract, because I'm not going to give another ounce of time to this until it's going to produce something for me. It's a real conversation that I had to have. Not being mean, just saying I don't have the time to answer, 434 calls about a project I don't even have under contract. You understand? It's just being true to what I have. It's creating the value in my organization around what I'm looking for and what I want. Okay. So the marketplace, determines value, perception, and belief. Ultimately, something that is valuable is because people believe it's valuable, which is what I was talking about a while ago, right? We believe that the $100 bill is more valuable than the copper penny. Therefore, it is. And that's all based on faith, right? Because we now know the truth, right? That little piece of copper, as far as a good, is worth more than that piece of paper. Is that not wild to think about? It's true, though, right? And then the message or service carries or defines its worth in the eyes of the consumer. Okay. So your income is a direct result of the value you create for other people, and creating value is not about what you have, it's about what you do with what you have. Okay. Next week, I'm going to save this for next week to talk about the 4 levels of value. Okay. Because there's 4 levels of value that are really, really important that I want you to understand. But I'm going to wait till next week to talk about this. But I want to talk about this time thing right now, really, really fast. And then I'm going to give time for questions. Okay. All right. So generally, I would think in here, you would say if you have $1 million, you're doing pretty good, right? If you had $1 million, you're not balling at a super high level like you used to back in the day, but $1 million is pretty good. You can get your hands on $1 million, you're doing pretty good, right? Okay. Now let me talk to you about why time is important, because we have been stuck in this cultural hypnotic societal mechanism for so long that one of the things that when we start talking about business, we start talking about money, we start talking about tactical moves, we start talking about philosophical things. One of the things that comes to mind a lot of times is, oh man, is he just talking about get rich quick? How many of you heard that? Right? Get rich quick. I'm not, but I am. Because what I'm not going to do is what most of us spend our life doing, which is stay broke for a long time. So I'd much rather get rich quick than stay broke for a long time. And somehow we developed the thought process that staying broke for a long time was a better option than getting rich quick. You know what I'm talking about? Okay. So, but let's talk about this. Here's why time is important. $1 million. If I were to say, okay, I'm gonna give you $1 million, but you only make 40K a year. So 40K a year times 25 years is $1 million. Am I rich? If it takes me 25 years to make $1 million at $40,000 a year, am I rich? No, you're not. Let's take it down a little bit. If I make $100,000 a year, 10 years, am I rich? Why not? Because of the time it takes, right? Now I could keep going. I mean, $250,000 a year. It's going to take you 4 years to make $1 million. Am I rich? No, you're doing pretty good. If you're making $250,000 a year, you're doing pretty good, but you're not rich. Why? Because it's connected to time. And so this is what I'm telling you. You learn to obsess about solving someone else's problem. You obsess about creating value for someone. What you do is you create this cycle where you actually can exponentially make money quickly and make it happen fast. That is why technology is so important. That's why I'm going to tell you, you better learn how to utilize AI. You better learn how to utilize uh, partnerships and leveraging with people. That's one of the things it took me forever to learn, just because I was hard headed. Seriously, like I was hard headed, and then I get into these circles, and these people are coming to the table with checks that have so many zeros on it. It's ridiculous. I'm like, hold up, let me get in business with you. Let me get in a partnership with you. Like invest in what we're doing somehow. You understand what I'm saying? So there are ways to leverage and do this at a quicker level, and that's what's important, and that's why it's necessary that we talk about this now. It's necessary that we talk about this because time is of the essence. And so, yeah, I do want you to get rich quick because I don't want you to stay broke long. Does that make sense? Yeah. Has this been helpful for anybody?